This week at the Net Cafe, online collecting. Meet George Nassetti of Butterfield & Butterfield, one of the biggest auction houses in the country. He's put his auctions online so you can now bid with the big guys. Look familiar? This is eBay, the used books section. You'll meet a man who closed down his shop so he could sell books exclusively online. Rodrigo Salas had a great idea. Why not a central auction clearinghouse on the web, where buyers can exchange information and track down the best sites? We'll show you his site called auctionwatch.com. If you're into collecting old computers and other electronic gadgets, you'll definitely be interested in this site, all about the Vintage Computer Festival. And meet Aaron Betsky. What does he collect on the web? Websites. We'll tell you about his collection at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. Online collectibles this week at the Net Cafe. Net Cafe is made possible by RonDiamond.com, the oldies site on the internet. Music and memories from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, not just another jukebox. Additional support comes from the law offices of Ivan Hoffman, lawyering with integrity for internet law, copyright, trademark, and other intellectual property law. And by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. Hi, and welcome to the Net Cafe. We're here as usual at the Club I in San Francisco. And this week we're talking about online collectibles. I guess everybody collects something, whether it's electronic gadgets or dolls or old records or baseball cards. And you can find all of this stuff on the web. Now, I guess it all started big time with eBay for people who sell and buy little things. But now some of the major American auction houses are going online, so you can now bid with the big guys. Andrew has more.
George, you're with Butterfields & Butterfields, and you're one of the oldest auction houses in the United States. Auctions on the web have been big news. They're very popular. People are very interested in them. You guys sell a much more high-ticket item, I think, than people are used to on sites like eBay and on sale and things like that. How has the antique auction world transferred to the web?
Well, this is an interesting challenge for us because the price point traditionally has been low on the web. However, we're starting to see many, many high-ticket items being sold on the web. For an example, if you go to eBay in their high-ticket item area, you'll find items that are selling for $200,000, $300,000. We would love to sell some of our $200,000 or $300,000 items on the web. And that's why we decided we felt the time is right now for people on the web to look at and to think about buying a beautiful painting, European painting, a piece of contemporary art, a piece of sculpture that maybe they normally wouldn't buy because they're starting to get a higher level of confidence.
Right, okay, so take me through the process and maybe how that differs from something like a Beanie Baby if I'm buying an armoire that's
right.
Worth several $1,000s.
Right, well, a Beanie Baby might be okay because some of those are selling for a few $1,000s, right. So that might be okay.
Right.
But on our website, what we do is we have all of our properties are authenticated by specialists and they're guaranteed.
Okay.
So in the event that we find out that the specialist was wrong, we, as an auction house, will rebate the money back to an individual buyer.
Okay.
And that's what kind of differentiates us on the web.
So I don't have to be worried about fraud. If you guys say it's real, chances are it's real.
That's right. And if by chance it was a fraud, then we would rebate the money back to the buyer.
Okay.
And that's where that level of confidence is starting to grow on the web with our relationship now with eBay.
Right.
We're bringing our name, the Butterfield name, 150-year-old auction house name, and we're also bringing our guarantee.
Okay, now your relationship actually is that you were purchased, your company was purchased by eBay.
Well, they liked us so much that they bought us.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so that must create a very interesting environment as well, one company going, a web company buying an old auction house.
Right, we've really had a lot of fun with it. It's really bridging the old world into the new world.
Okay, now, if I go onto your site, I've seen a lot of things on there that seem to help buyers and you can get appraisals and things like that. What are some of the things that you find really helpful on the site?
We have really tried to make our website friendly. We wanted to talk to the buyer, especially the unsophisticated buyer that maybe has never been at a high-level auction before. So we walk people through the auction process on our website. We also offer people an opportunity to get a free photo appraisal. All they have to do is put it online to us with the description, and within a week we'll give them a free photo appraisal of their item.
Okay.
And everybody has something in their house. It
Right.
could be an antique and it could be a collectible, but people want to know what's it worth.
And they don't even have to sell it through you? You can just actually get the appraisal?
No, and we're happy to provide that service.
Right.
And they're getting the value of specialists who might specialize in sports memorabilia.
Right.
Somebody who's done this for 25 years.
Okay.
Or European paintings. Somebody who is from Europe and has studied paintings and is an expert in that area can really tell somebody what their object is worth.
Okay, now I know you guys recently also pioneered some things on the web yourself, the simultaneous online-offline auction.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we were the first major auction house to conduct live online auctions. But what that really means is somebody could tune into the internet and they could listen and watch and also bid on a real brick and mortar type of auction. For example, when a real live auctioneer is calling out numbers, we allowed people to hear it on the internet, and those that were pre-qualified were able to actually bid online.
Was the audio fast enough? Those guys really talk fast.
Well, actually, the audio was for entertainment value only. The area that was for real and was exact was the actual numbers coming up in the auction, so that if you were at home, you could bid equally with a floor bidder, a telephone bidder, or an absentee bidder.
All right, well, it sounds like high-ticket items are coming to the web as well. Thanks,
We're looking
George.
forward to it. Thank you.
Are online auctions changing the world of collectibles and those who buy and sell those items? Well, you bet. In fact, we found one man who used to run a real secondhand bookshop in Washington, D.C., but he closed down the store so he could do all his selling online. Jane is with him.
Now, Greg, I understand that you used to have a rare book store on the East Coast, and you've closed up shop. You're now on the West Coast, and you're selling basically rare books on eBay.
That's right. My wife and I had a store in Georgetown in Washington, D.C., and about a year and a half ago we moved out here and been selling books on eBay since then.
How did you stumble across eBay?
I'd heard about it. People, just the buzz in the business. People would say, had you bought anything off eBay or seen eBay? And eventually I found my way to their website, and I liked what I saw, and I thought I would use it initially to get rid of some things that I'd had in stock for a while that were just taking up space.
So just kind of trying it out and get rid of some of the old stuff?
Yeah, just really things that I really didn't care about, so I thought I'd just try and shoot them out, and it worked much better than I'd expected, and so I just kept offering more and more things on there, and now it makes up a large portion of my business.
Now, how would you compare having a physical store versus now your online business?
It's much better. There are many benefits. There's no overhead. When we had a store, we had to have a stock of about 15,000 books. Now my inventory is about 1,000 volumes, and it changes very rapidly. And with a store, you were limited to who walked in your store and the people that you knew were in the market for particular books.
And now you've got a global market.
And now I've got a global market. I can offer things that I wouldn't have ordinarily
Isn't there any
offered.
downside to the online business?
Not that I can see. Not from my point of view, there isn't.
One would think with eBay, especially I think eBay, since it's sort of the one that most people would recognize as an online auction house, aren't you facing a lot more competition now? I mean, if you've got access to a larger market, there must be a lot more people who are selling this particular or rare books, for example.
Well, I don't think competition is really a problem. There's lots of customers out there, and the more sellers there are, the more buyers there are. And with eBay, they enable you to build a reputation with their feedback system. After you complete a transaction with someone, they enter a feedback, positive or negative. And you build a rating over time, and
so it's a referral-based business, more so than even a physical store.
Right, right.
And how about pricing? I mean, are you selling these books for a lot more since it's a bidding process and it's sometimes blind bidding, or?
In some cases, things bring a lot more than I expect them to. But often I can offer things for less money than I would have had to with a physical shop where my overhead is so high.
So it's a win-win for both.
Absolutely.
And now, if you're selling most of your books online, are you actually buying a lot of your books online as well?
I'm finding it a good place to buy things for particular customers who I know are looking for a particular book or have a particular area. But for the things that I offer online, I buy them the old-fashioned way.
And so that would be going out to estate sales?
Estate sales, auctions. I run advertisements in some papers. People call me with collections for sale.
And how many books do you have on average that you're selling in a given, or auctioning in a given day or a given week?
I try to offer 50 or 60 new books a week on eBay.
So is that a full-time job?
It doesn't really take up all my time, no.
So now you get to play and work and not have as much overhead.
Yeah.
Are there fuzzy bunny slippers in the office?
Yes.
That sounds good. Well, thanks very much for your time, Greg.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, online auctions are fascinating, but for some people they're kind of confusing. First of all, more than 300 auction sites online, so it's confusing to figure out where to go to buy something. And if you want to sell something, for some people that process is kind of confusing. There is one site that solves all of those problems, and fortunately that's yours, Rodrigo, and it's auctionwatch.com, which is really a great site and a great idea. Tell us how you came up with the idea to have this sort of general auction site. You don't really sell on your site, right?
No, we're not an auction site. We are an auction services and information provider.
And that means what?
Basically, we view the market as having a number of opportunities for services to surround these transactions, being able to find the right site to buy or sell from,
Right.
being able to understand more about the process, tips, tactics, strategies, things that you can do. And then in addition, there are a number of services that we're currently not offering that many people will be able to guess from.
Right, let's talk about some of the
direction
things you do have. One great thing is you're sort of grand central for auctions, right? You have links to virtually all the auction sites
That's
out
correct.
there, which is a great service. And how do you have them organized?
Basically, they're organized by category. So assuming you were going to be selling or buying an antique chair and wanted to know perhaps where the best site was to buy or sell that chair, you could go to our site.
So I'd look at what, furniture or?
Antiques, actually.
Okay.
And there are approximately 50 antique sites. And what we currently offer are links to all those antique sites and a very brief description. In addition, one of the things that we'll be offering in the not-so-near future, or not-so-distant future, rather, are reviews of those sites themselves. So not only do you know which sites cater to the antique market, but
What
also
people think of them.
which sites may be the best sites to visit if you're interested in selection.
Now you have something like that now, your message center, and I noticed there's tons of postings on there where people just talk to each other about experiences they've had. I know in your eBay section, I saw something like 18,000 postings listed there. What are people doing there? What are they talking about?
It's really a great place where buyers and sellers of all types can come together and speak. They can speak about the sites that they're dealing with, the items that they're buying and selling online, issues that they may be experiencing with other parties, how to avoid fraud, how to manage feedback profiles, and that type of thing.
Is it mostly talking about problems and saying, hey, I had this problem here, beware, this kind of thing?
There's certainly an aspect of talking about problems. Recently, we found that a lot of buyers and sellers are using our message center to compare how sites are doing. So how does eBay measure against Amazon or Yahoo and that type of thing?
Measure by what term? I mean, the price, the convenience, the what?
Well, from a seller's perspective, it's really the price that they're able to command as well as the percentage of transactions that close. And from a buyer's, it's really selection and customer service.
You've got something called The Buzz, which is what, kind of an online auction zine in a way?
It's currently links to news that surround the online auction
So it just links to
space.
any news online that has to do with the subject of auctions.
Right, and we're going to be rolling out very quickly with our own news and our own content to make The Buzz much more of a comprehensive content.
You talked about services before. You have two very useful services, it seems to me. One is image hosting. Explain that.
What image hosting allows is for sellers to attach photos of their items to their online auction listings. And that's been incredibly successful for us. We host well over a million images.
So why would they do
a
that with
day.
you rather than just post the image on the eBay or whatever?
eBay does not host the images themselves. Very few auction sites do. So while the images do appear on eBay, they are hosted by auctionwatch.com.
Okay, so that might be a little complicated. You make it easy for people to put the picture of the thing up there.
Exactly. It's a very simple automated process.
All right, something else you have is the eBay Quick Script. What is that?
The eBay Quick Script, that's actually something that we're going to be moving away from, but it's a very simple eBay search tool that will not be in the next version of our site.
All right, so why are you taking that away? It sounds like a pretty good idea if you're looking for something.
Just browser compatibility.
Okay.
It's not compatible with many of the
issues.
newer browsers.
Well, what's the next step in online auctions? What's going to be the cool new thing that you guys are going to do or the eBays of the world will do?
There are a number of things. I see auctions moving upstream, so moving from your lower priced items into much higher dollar items.
Right.
Localized auctions are allowing people to sell things such as furniture and
The
cars
big stuff
online.
where you got to go with the pickup truck?
Right.
Right.
And those are what we see as being the major trends in the online auction space, as well as just continued fragmentation and the growth of all of these new and emerging auction sites.
Well, if you're into auctions, it's really a great place to start. Auctionwatch.com. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Thank you very much.
Among the most popular collectibles online are old computers. For some reason, there are people like me who are fascinated by these old clunkers, which in retrospect were far too expensive and far too slow. We found one guy who loves old computers, so much so that he started something called the Vintage Computer Festival. Andrew is with him.
Salam, you are the founder of the Vintage Computer Festival, and I think it's now in its 3rd year. You know, we're encouraged constantly to go out and buy new computers. It's like every 6 months, basically, it seems like the latest one is obsolete and there's a new one coming in. Why collect vintage computers?
Well, originally it started out as I just couldn't get rid of my old computers. I had, you know, fell in love with them or whatever. But then
So
after
you were a geek, basically, when you were a kid.
very much so.
Okay.
Still am.
Good.
But then it became a matter of, I felt that a lot of computers were being thrown out without anybody saving some of these computers from the past that would someday, you know, people would wonder, well, what happened in the early days?
Right, so there may not be a history for people to look back on. Is
exactly. So I thought, if I don't start collecting these things, nobody will. And so I would go out and to flea markets and thrift stores and things and start finding this stuff and collecting it and accumulating it. And then eventually I found out that there were actually other people out there who thought the same way I did, which is, you know, if nobody does it, or if I don't do it, nobody else will.
So you started the festival.
And so I started the Vintage Computer Festival after I realized that there was a whole bunch of collectors out there, and there was a need for, you know, a sort of an event where people could get together and share information and trade computers and hear mostly talks on computer history.
Right.
And that's the emphasis of the festival.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like you've brought some of your collection here with us. Why don't you go through and sort of give me a little history here?
Okay, yeah, I got some interesting things here. This is a early computer from the mid-70s. It's a computer trainer, and it's basically it was used for. I mean, it's an actual computer. You could use it as a computer.
Looks like a calculator to me.
Yeah, this is where you would actually enter your programs in. You would program it all in machine language, which is all just numbers.
Okay.
But you could actually hook a terminal up to it or a printer and make it a useful computer.
Okay.
And it had a whopping 4K of memory.
4K. Wow, that wouldn't even get you an email these days. Okay, so what do you got here?
Well,
in
over
the
here I
storage
have
device?
some different obsolete storage devices. Here's some memory. This is an old. This is a core memory module, and this.
How much memory is that?
This is 8K.
8K
of core memory.
Boy.
This basically would appear mostly in your mini computers from the 60s.
Really,
and early
8K
70s.
would be about twice as big as that now. So
I think, yeah.
maybe a little less, but.
Then you have, this is a bubble memory module. This bubble memory was invented in the 70s and had a lot of potential, but it never really took off because it had a density limit. You can only get it so big.
Yeah.
It's kind of heavy. And then you have some old storage devices here. You have, well, here's some punch tape.
Wow, not exactly your zip drive or your...
No, not at all. This is an old 8-inch floppy, and then we have some punch tape here where you used to store your programs on.
This is really old stuff.
Yeah, this is, you know, this goes back a long way. This is one of the disk drive format, or disk formats that didn't make it. It's a 3-inch disk. Of course, we all know the 3.5 went out. And then this is a floppy tape. They call it stringy floppy, they called it, that never really went anywhere.
Okay, now what's this device over here?
This is a punch card.
This is like interactive computing. I like this.
Yeah, this is a manual punch that you could use in the comfort of your own office.
Okay.
Instead of having to use the punch card machine in the computer center or whatever. And of course we have a punch card here, and you would just slide it into the machine, and there's a little chart here that tell you how to get the characters to punch in onto the card.
Right. The company that printed these must have gone out of business, don't you think?
Well, probably, but.
What is this here?
This is a programming patch panel for an IBM 557 card punch machine, and this is how you would basically program it. You would wire it together based on, you know, the different sections. And
what year is this from?
This is actually from a machine from the late 60s.
Late 60s, okay. And this is the actual hieroglyphics of a programmer?
Yeah, this is the last remnants of a programmer who left some notes for future programmers.
All right, well now the personal computer revolution sort of took off.
Yeah, we get back into early 80s. This is a Timex Sinclair 1000.
I think that's very interesting. A lot of people don't know that Timex was involved in the early computers.
In fact, yes, they were. A lot of companies that you wouldn't associate with computers actually made computers at some point.
Right.
Okay, a lot of people recognize
what about this? This looks almost like a laptop.
Well, this is Apple's first portable. This is actually a prototype Apple IIc, and I found this in a thrift store of all places.
Really? Okay. Now this is a beautiful collection of stuff, and I understand you're also working on a physical space, maybe where people can go.
Yeah, I have a warehouse that I'm converting into a center. I'm kind of calling it a community museum. It's going to be the official name is the Vintage Technology Cooperative Resource Center. Okay. And it's going to be a center where people can come and share in the hobby, work on their old computers. It's going to have workstations set up and tools and things like that. It's going to have a full library of old computer books. I've been collecting books and magazines to fill it up for people to do historical research into computers. and it's currently being turned into a nonprofit organization. So
That's great. Now, where can people check this out on the web?
it's www.vintage.org.
All right, thanks a lot.
One of the strangest phenomena in online collectibles is this trend now toward collecting old websites. In fact, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art is doing exactly that. Jane is with the project's director.
Aaron, how do you do a display of websites at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art?
Well, we don't. We do websites on our site. And what we're trying to do is really two things. The first is we're trying to preserve websites that we think are particularly important, beautiful, pieces of great design that are going to be gone tomorrow. And in fact, some of the things in our collection, like AdaWeb or Atlas, are already gone, and they only exist in our collection. Others, like Funnel.com or Daydream or Fork Unstable Medium, one of my favorite titles, you can go look at today. But if you now come to our site to see them there, you're going to see them in a different context. You know, I've done things like I've put a car in a museum. And a funny thing happens when you put a car in a museum. Suddenly it's on a podium, and it has white walls around it and skylights over it, maybe a guard lurking somewhere around to make sure you don't touch it. And suddenly it's not just something you drive, it's something you look at. It's an object.
It's bigger all of a sudden.
It's bigger, and you concentrate on it, and maybe you start thinking about what it means to be in a car, what transportation is, how and why it was designed the way it was. Maybe it starts to tell you a little bit about your life. Well, I'm trying to figure out if you can do the same thing on the web. Can you create the equivalent of a museum on the web that takes a website that you usually just go to for information or to be amused and really look at it seriously? Look at it again. Look at it slowly. Look at it with some serious context.
Well, help me understand something. There's loads of websites out today, and arguably everybody has a different opinion, which is good, what's not good, what's a great interface, so on and so forth. How do you pick the best of the crop?
You spend a lot of time looking at a lot of different sites, and then you really apply the same rules that you apply when you look at any kind of good design. Those can be very abstract, like you want design to blow your mind, or you want it to be beautiful. But you can also be very specific, and you learn certain things about composition, about typography, which is the kind of letters that designers use, about colors. And those rules were developed for making magazines or making books or making posters or for making architecture. And now they're applied to websites.
So what is it about, Daydream is one of the sites in your collection. What is it about that site that, with all of those elements, that makes it so much better than the rest?
Well, Daydream is a wonderful collection of experiments by a whole set of different designers and artists. And they start scrolling different numbers past you. They start making a composition that changes over time and in space, so it never quite looks the same. They start creating what in art we call a collage, which grabs pieces from the rest of the world, scans them together, and makes a new composition out of it.
Something completely different.
Absolutely.
Now, a big thing to keep in mind is that the website collection that you have, you're going to be showing online. This is not going to be something that you'll go into the museum to view.
Eventually, you'll see it in the museum as well. We have these websites burned onto CD-ROMs. We have them into perpetuity. When we decide to put them in our collection, that means we're going to take care of them forever. And we're going to try to make sure that they can be seen forever. So I hope that 10 years from now, you'll be able to go into our museum and see a site that's long since gone off the air and only exists in a server somewhere. And you'll be able to walk up to a screen, touch that screen, and it will come to life. It's
going to be really interesting 15 years from now to check out those sites that have changed a lot over time. Thanks a lot, Aaron.
So that's our look at online collectibles and online auctions. I hope you found some worthwhile tips. Thanks for joining us here at the Club I in San Francisco, and I hope you'll join us again here next week at the Net Cafe. Net Cafe is made possible by RonDiamond.com, the oldies site on the internet. Music and memories from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, not just another jukebox. Additional support comes from the law offices of Ivan Hoffman, Lawyering with Integrity for internet law, copyright, trademark, and other intellectual property law. And by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.